This is Entertainment for Review, and I'm back with another episode of The Big Bang Theory. Today I'm going to be reviewing Season 3, Episode 8, The Adhesive Ducky Deficiency. The episode gets this title because Penny takes a fall in her tub because of an absence of adhesive duckies. This episode starts off with Leonard, Raj, and Howard out in the desert. They are there to observe a meteor shower, but also to find some entertainment, they decide to tune into the West Coast feed of HBO, where they find a rather odd choice of show, so they switch to the East Coast feed, which is showing the movie Doom. It's just the three of them on this journey, and Leonard notes that it's a shame that Sheldon couldn't come along, and they all start to agree, only then to have a good laugh together because they are all happy to have a break away from Sheldon.
Howard and I are just friends!
And the feeling is mutual because we find Sheldon back at the apartment, and he is having a Sheldon's log, a take on the popular Captain's log in an episode of Star Trek. He notes that with his friends gone, he's missing the warmth of human interaction, only to have a laugh about it himself moments later. So Sheldon, too, is happy to have a little break from his friends. Sheldon's joy is not to last, as he's trying to order dinner by trying to get the restaurant to divide the portions they normally order for the whole group into his individual portions, he hears Penny calling for help. So he rushes over, but of course he stops and does his traditional knock. He goes in and Penny says she's in the back, and he knocks again on her bedroom door with the same knock. She then says she's in the bathroom, so Sheldon goes in, and he's about to knock on the bathroom door, and she says, "Don't you dare knock." Sheldon goes in to find Penny laying on the tub of her bathtub, draped with the shower curtain. Sheldon seems a little shocked by this, and Penny says that she slipped in the tub and thinks that she dislocated her shoulder. Sheldon makes the obvious statement that tugs are slippery after explaining it in a much more detailed fashion.
Tubs are slippery.
And explains that he's not surprised she fell because she doesn't have adhesive stickers on the bottom of her tub to give better grip. And Sheldon explains that he has ones on the bottom of his tub that are whimsical ducks that are holding umbrellas. Which is again where we get the title for this episode. Sheldon helps Penny turn off the water and get up out of the tub, and she says that she needs to go to the hospital and asks Sheldon to drive her, to which he quickly replies that he doesn't drive.
Okay, can you drive me?
I don't drive.
Well, I can't drive!
And Penny says that she can't drive. But Sheldon, feeling guilted into it and not wanting to, as he says, leave a damsel in distress, he agrees to drive her, even though he says a set of 99-cent adhesive duckies could have prevented them from both dying in a fiery car crash. We then bounce back to Leonard, Raj, and Howard out in the desert. Raj and Howard are sitting there, and Leonard says he wishes Penny could be there. Raj doesn't feel the same way, because he said while they were doing things in the tent, he would have to sit outside watching Howard do unspeakable things to a cactus. Howard returns from a walk where he says he was exploring other campsites, and he was of course looking for women, and he said he found a campsite with two older middle school teachers in their 50s. Raj and Howard are both intrigued, which I find a little bit odd because I think based on future episodes that during this time period Howard is supposed to be dating Bernadette. Although I guess they're not in a committed relationship, he still seems to be out looking for other women. He notes that the two women were older, they were driving an old VW van, and they had tie-dyed Grateful Dead t-shirts, and they gave him some cookies which they all eat. Nothing suspicious at all there. Back with Sheldon and Penny. Penny needs Sheldon to help her get some clothes to get dressed so that they can leave for the hospital, and Sheldon is of course amazed by her lack of organization in her clothing. She says she just needs some clothes to wear.
Clothes, Sheldon, I need clothes!
So Sheldon quickly pulls out something, and Penny says no, it's not a good match. And he pulls out a couple more options, which she also rejects, until he finally comes across a random combination that she finds acceptable, much to the befuddlement of Sheldon.
We should have you checked for a concussion.
She then tells Sheldon that she needs help getting the clothes on, but she wants him to keep his eyes closed because she doesn't want him to see her naked.
You just see me naked.
Oh, well, that's understandable.
Sheldon does so and begins helping her, but in the process of having his eyes closed, grabs something that he shouldn't have grabbed, and Penny tells him he should probably let that go.
Is that my arm?
It doesn't feel like an arm.
Then maybe you should let it go.
This must be uncomfortable for both of them, but I can only imagine much more so for Sheldon. Back at the desert, Leonard, Raj, and Howard seem to be suffering the after effects of the mysterious cookies they received from the older women in another campsite. It seems that these cookies had some drugs in them, and they are all feeling the effects. They are acting a little odd, laughing a lot, and hallucinating a bit, and just hanging out staring at the stars. Sheldon and Penny have finally made it to the car, but not making any progress anywhere quickly, as Sheldon has to go through his checklist of making sure the car is ready based on what he's learned in his driver's ed training, and this is taking quite some time, much to the distress of a wounded Penny. Back in the desert, the three of them are still acting very strange. They are all laying on rocks, looking at the sky, and having three very separate conversations. Leonard is talking about how he hates his name and what names he wishes he could have, Raj is talking about what would happen if he ruled over all the rabbits in the world and they were all his rabbit subjects. And Howard is talking about a memory of losing his virginity to his cousin. They should not have eaten those cookies. Sheldon and Penny are very slowly making their way to the hospital as Sheldon is driving severely under the speed limit, much to Penny's frustration. Sheldon, as he was in a very early episode, is also very distressed about the fact that Penny's check engine light is on. When they are stopped at a red light, Sheldon decides to ask Penny why she has the Chinese character for soup tattooed on her right buttock. She says it's for courage, and he says no, it's soup. And Sheldon is probably right. Although Penny then realizes the much stranger question, how does he know it's there, as he wasn't supposed to be looking? And Sheldon says, like many heroes who he gave examples of earlier, the hero always peaks.
Sorry, as I told you, the hero always peaks.
And I find that a very interesting thing for Sheldon here, just because it gives him a little bit of normalcy. Because as we know, Sheldon is not for human interaction, he's very against intimacy and anything like that. But when in the presence of a beautiful woman who was naked, he took a peek, which I feel like most would. It just shows that Sheldon isn't as robotic as he would like most people to believe that he is. Back in the desert, the guys have a case of the munchies, and they are looking through their cooler for more pudding cups, which do not exist, and it appears that they have exhausted their entire food supply. But they just end up circling around and telling Leonard to check the cooler again for pudding, which he does. Sheldon and Penny, against all odds, have somehow made it to the hospital, and Sheldon was checking in at the desk. He has a clipboard with some questions that they need to fill out. Sheldon begins asking Penny the questions and annoying her, and answering the questions in his own way. Even at one point, when it gets to a psychiatric section, saying that Penny may have Tourette's because she calls him an ass because of the way he's answering questions.
Ass.
Possible Tourette's?
And it's at this point that Penny's frustration is starting to get to her, and she basically tells Sheldon that she's not feeling well, and she's scared, and she needs him to not be him at the moment. So Sheldon does oblige and try to be more comforting, although this is kind of creepy and uncomfortable, and probably makes Penny wish that he would just go back to being an ass again.
Sheldon's here.
Back in the desert, they are all still complaining about their hunger, and they are about to go raid another campsite for food when Howard discovers that his mother left an I Love You brisket in his bag.
My mother put an I Love You brisket in my backpack!
They begin devouring it with their hands, completely forgetting that the meteor shower that they came to see is now currently going on in the background behind them. Sheldon and Penny have now made it back from the hospital to Penny's apartment, and Sheldon seems pretty eager to drop Penny off and get out of there. Penny is clearly under the influence of some pain medication, and she says that Sheldon needs to get her into bed and then laughs about it, saying he bet he'd never hear her say that, which he probably didn't. So Sheldon helps the delirious Penny get back into her room and get into bed. She's talking to him and having fun, and then she finally gets some revenge for what he did to her when he was sick, and she asks him to sing Soft Kitty.
Sing Soft Kitty to me.
Sheldon tries to object and say that it's only for when you're sick, and she says that injured and drugged are a kind of sick. So Sheldon reluctantly agrees to sing Soft Kitty, and then Penny insists that they sing it as a round. She tries to start it a few times, and Sheldon isn't kicking in until finally, on the third or fourth try, he does, and they get through the song. And we end the episode back with the guys in the desert, and they are disheveled, sitting around the campfire, telling stories, and basically at this point they've broken down to just making fun of Howard for revealing that he slept with his cousin. When they get over the effects of those cookies, they're going to feel quite foolish for missing what they came out there to do. And that is The Big Bang Theory Season 3, Episode 8, The Adhesive Ducky Deficiency. I like this episode a lot. I think it has a lot to deliver, mainly on the Sheldon and Penny side, of course, because as I've said before, one of my favorite aspects of this show is the friendship between Sheldon and Penny, and that grows a lot in this episode. And Sheldon kind of proves himself in an emergency. He gets called into action and does what he needs to do to help Penny, as much as it may have brought him personal discomfort. He had to help her up, help her get dressed, get her to the hospital, and do so by driving her there, which he is very much afraid to do. And although he annoyed Penny a lot in the process, and she got a little bit of payback at the end, you can only imagine that their friendship will be closer after this experience. The other side of the episode with Leonard, Raj, and Howard doesn't really add that much to the episode. It's good for a few laughs. Them out in the desert, they accidentally get some drugs in their system, and they're basically sitting around tripping the entire night. Not a huge amount to be said about this part of the episode. But the Penny Sheldon part does save it enough and is strong enough for me to rate this episode at a very high 9 out of 10. Let me know your thoughts on this episode in the comments section. Please be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel, and keep an eye out for my next video coming soon.